Hi, I'm Stanley, and welcome to Growing Up with Pac-Man. Gaming has changed the face of entertainment dramatically over the last 30 years, developing from pixel-zapping arcade machines into mega-blockbuster ultra-realistic shooters of today. 50 years ago there were no electronic entertainment systems. It's a parallel development alongside our society's move into the age of technology, yet culturally games have carved out their own path. Over the course of this documentary, we'll be looking at how computer games have established themselves in the 21st century and the road it took to get there. It all started here, in the Brookhaven National Laboratory on the 18th of October 1958. Nuclear physicist William Higginbotham used one of the complex's supercomputers to program this game, Tennis for Two. Two rudimentary controllers plugged it into the computer and off they went. The first ever computer game was played exclusively by scientific geniuses. The buttons were even labelled left and right. In 1972, Atari released the first arcade games machine. The arcade golden age came and passed over the course of about 2 years. Games like Asteroid, Space Invaders and Pong set a standard for the era, being cloned and built upon for years to come. The arcade scene was a huge shift for the day's youth, embracing a new form of entertainment and getting really good at it.
We don't have sounds yet, so I have to make up my own.
1972 also saw the release of the first home games console, the Manavox Odyssey. The first generation of games consoles spawned numerous clones, but home consoles at this point were basically rubbish.
Black and white or color to create a closed-circuit electronic playground. Odyssey gives you all the exciting action of hockey and 11 other challenging...
There just weren't enough games, and far too many clones of Pong. This led to a crash in the market near the end of the 1970s, with consoles being sold at a loss simply to clear the stock.
Now at your Magnavox dealer. He's listed in the yellow pages.
I started out playing games on an Amstrad CPC 464, where you would load games from a tape deck and the monitor only showed different shades of green. And so it was fairly niche, but obviously games have branched out into the mainstream much more, so you'll see adverts in the street, you'll see people wearing t-shirts with games in it, that kind of thing. But I am probably one of the first generations to grow up where games were very much at the forefront all the way through. I didn't know anyone who didn't have a computer or a games console and played games all the time. And so it always seemed like games were surrounding me, and I've kind of grown up with them.
Personal home computers were also gaining serious momentum, with a faster technology turnaround and a large variation of games to play. The third generation is where consoles gained serious momentum. Technology shifts from 8-bit and 16-bit all the way up to 32-bit. Bits are a measurement of how many bits of data a computer processor can handle in a single operation. This allowed for better looking and better sounding games. Cue the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES. It started out hugely in Japan, moving to the West in 1985. And so started a gaming epidemic, and everything started to fall into place for what we take as modern gaming today. Controller standards, keyboard and mouse play, narrative and character, art styles, trial and error had taught the games industry several hard-hitting lessons. Another essential part for this change was from a new generation. The youth of the 60s and 70s, who were the original consumers, were now the driving force behind this gaming revolution. New genres flourished and started becoming defined, setting the standard for all our modern games today. Throughout the 90s, Japan played a massive part in the push of home consoles, and were developing huge amounts of quality gaming titles, most of which never made it over to the West. Often they would arrive in a state of linguical chaos, having seemingly been deciphered through the Babelfish translator, which is weird because it didn't exist back then.
What happened? Someone set up us the bug. We get signal. What? Main screen turn on. It's you.
How are you, gentlemen? All your days are belong to us. You are on the way to destruction.
What you say?
You have no chance to survive, mate, your time. Ha ha ha.
So we go through another couple of console generations. We're currently on the 5th with the Xbox 360, Wii and PS3, with huge increases in processing power as we speed into the modern day. Personal computers are in every home, with games arriving with Windows as standard, and Grandma tried a spot of Wii Fit over the festive period in a gin-infused haze. Social changes have happened. The Nintendo kids of the 80s and 90s are walking wallets of disposable income, and with any industry that can turn over vast profits, the corporate vultures swoop in. Advertising for games is rife, marketing campaigns cost millions, and big game developments take years.
I'm Mr. T, and this is my night elf mohawk.
Cut, T, there's no such thing as a night elf mohawk.
Shut up, fool!
The advertising budget for Modern Warfare 2 was actually larger than the budget for Avatar. Than the advertising budget for Avatar, sorry. That's bizarre to find out. I mean, Avatar is a film that costs between 250 and 300 million to make, whereas Modern Warfare 2 only cost 50 million to make. But still, that the advertising budget is higher on a game than on this enormous movie, which is going on and very soon will be the highest grossing movie of all time.
But there was one change that affected the entire world in the 90s and had a massive impact on the cultural development of video games: high-speed internet.
What the wife selects on her console will be paid for by the husband at his counterpart console. All bills and transactions will be carried out electronically.
The internet allowed community to develop across the whole world, as I'll let Tom explain.
It used to be, I think there's kind of two things going on, where one is that gaming culture has developed from a few people who hacked their BBC or whatever to tinker with the games that they played then, to the huge modding scene and map making and all kinds of custom content people make in clans and communities and stuff. And at the same time, the level of awareness of that stuff has also been rising exponentially because of communities forming on the internet, forums, and gamers just talk way more now than they ever did before. So that stuff's been getting bigger and it's been getting more visible. So it has been a pretty incredible explosion to the point where the stuff we cover now just sort of seems to beg a belief.
Game music, game cinematic, game films, retro games, suddenly gaming had a culture beyond a living room pastime. For millions it was becoming a hobby and a way of life. The way people played games was changing too. Originally, you'd either play with single player on your own, or have a friend over, either to play with or compete against. Online play had evolved how we interact with other people massively, with the standards being competitive and cooperative play. Second Life doesn't offer either of these options. You simply hang out with other people. The game Demon's Souls isn't a multiplayer game in the usual manner of playing alongside or against other players. Instead, interaction occurs through notes within the game's levels left by other players. If you are hooked up to the internet, the game connects you to an online community in the background. Players who have completed levels before you leave tips like, "Watch out for that spike trap," or "That dragon dropped a really nice axe." More often though, it's just willies and boobies scribbled on the walls.